9 times out of 10, if your videos look amateur, it's because your camera settings are up. So I'm gonna make sure that your camera settings aren't up ever again. You're gonna learn everything you need to know in this video right here. So I'm gonna share my screen too. And so this example is daylight out in the sun. My screen is blown out, everything's white. First thing you always change, you wanna adjust, is gonna be your frame rate. And you want to set it to the highest quality possible for your camera, and then 24 frames per second. So right now I'm filming at 24 frames per second. If you want to do slow motion, you film in 60 frames per second. So once you got your frames down, 24 frames, you want to set your shutter speed first, which is going to be double your frames. So double the 24 is going to be 48. Twist your shutter speed. You'll see 48 is not an option, so you round up. So I'm at 50. So first and foremost, 24 frames per second, 50 shutter speed. Look at my screen, it's super bright. Next thing you want to adjust is going to be your aperture. Aperture, the lower you go, the more light you let in, and then the higher you go, the darker it is. Let's say you want to get me in focus and then everything behind me blurry. You want the blurry background. You need to film at a low aperture. So when you buy lenses, a lot of times it'll say f2.8, f4, f1.8. What f is symbolizing is going to be your aperture. So this lens right here is a f1.8. Pretty sure the one that Malik's using right now is also f1.8. So yesterday we were on a boat filming, and I wanted to get the artists in focus like this, but I also wanted to be able to see all the buildings and the skyline behind them. So I couldn't film at 1.8 because it'd be blown out. So I had to raise my aperture, I think around 5 or 6 or 7. And then I was able to get them in focus and the buildings in the skyline could be visible. So now you got your aperture set. And let's say I want more of a cinematic look. So I'm gonna do low aperture, right? I want the object to be in focus and I want the background to be blurry. Still blown out, still super white. So the next setting that you adjust is gonna be your ISO. The higher your ISO, the brighter it is, the lower your ISO, the darker it is. You don't want to raise your ISO up too much because then you get all the, it's like noise, where you zoom into, let's say this was nighttime and it's black, and in the corner you see all this fuzzy crap going on. That's called noise. You want to avoid that. So keep your ISO, some people say lower than 800. Keep it as low as possible, but still making your image visible. So mine's still blown out. So this is where ND filters come in. So I'm gonna go grab my ND filter, be right back. I got my variable ND filter. I recommend getting a variable. It means that you can adjust the brightness by just twisting the ring. Some other ND filters, you just put it on and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I like being able to adjust it. So you just twist it on. Kind of like what is a variable ND filter for dummies. It's like sunglasses for your camera. So now all I'm doing is I'm twisting the ring. Boom, it just literally saved the day. You know, you can see how my screen looks. This is beautiful. Look at, you shooting me, I'm shooting you.
Yeah, boy.
So without this ND filter, you know, it's blown out. You gotta have an ND filter. If you guys want the ND filter that I'm using, the variable one, I'll put a link to that in the description. So you're gonna need an ND filter for each of your lenses. So if you got 3 different lenses, you're gonna need 3 different filters. I think it's under $100-ish per filter, but it's worth it. Any type of daylight filming, you're gonna use it. Looking like right here. Now we're gonna go inside and I'm gonna show you how to adjust your camera settings when you go into like a darker, low light situation.
See the floor all the way to Florida?
Fellas.
Oh, my bad.
All right, so now we're inside. It's dark as f. My screen looks very black. First thing I'm gonna do is take the ND filter off. Just twist it off. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. I feel like that's a very white thing to say, right? No comment. Got that off. I'm gonna film. All right, so going over the settings. First thing I'm doing for this example, let's do slow motion, right? I'm gonna change my frames per second to 60. What should you do for the shutter speed? What should you do? Double, right? So 160 times 2. Do the math. 120. 120 is not an option. So you go 125. You round up, and then so I want the depth of field, right? I want the blurry background. So I got my aperture as low as you can go. So I'm at 1.8, and then it's still too dark. So this is where you're gonna go to your ISO, and you're gonna raise your ISO to compensate. And let's say you're raising your ISO, and it's not daylight. Let's say it's really dark in here, and you start going up to 4,000, 8,000, 16,000. It's still dark. Now you need to add a light. You got to turn a light on somewhere because you're gonna have too much of that noise. But a little bonus tip is sometimes you can make it look like that on purpose, like distort it, give it that look on purpose. Then it adds contrast to your videos because you can have some like perfectly exposed shots that are beautiful, and then you throw in some bad looking stuff on purpose. Get some contrast in the video. Yeah, and then the little like movement with slow motion. If I really wanted to actually film this, add some sort of like twist, turn, move it close to the camera, move it back. My white balance is on auto. I had auto for out there, auto for in here. If you feel like it, you can also change your white balance when you're outside in the sun to daylight or shade if the sun's not out. And then with inside, you do some custom white balances. But most of the time, we're just at auto for white balance. Keep it simple, right? Don't overthink it. This might have been a little bit of a boring video, but it's the most important video that you can watch when it comes to videography. Get the settings right? Follow for more. Let me see some fire emojis in the comments if this video was helpful. And then also let me know what other topics you guys want me to talk about. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.